Different languages, immense diversity, so many dialects that inhabit or constitute our rich culture, the rich culture of our nation. But in all the bickering about what language one is supposed to speak, it is more pertinent or more relevant to study the different languages which have developed over a period of thousands of years, which define India as it is today. So, classical languages of India. So, recently it was in news. So, we'll begin straight away with this topic. So, what was in the news? So, recently the Union Cabinet it approved inclusion or grant of classical language status to five five more languages, which are the following: Assamese, Marathi, Bengali, Pali, and Prakrit. Fine. So these languages have been are going to be granted the classical language status. Fine. Now don't affix any political connections to that, although in some one or other stage there are elections to be held. But basically the history lies goes back all the way to 2004 when we had the UPA 1 government. So they planned or established a committee to special to languages of significance, special significance to be classified. So this is different from what you have read or already know about this. We are not talking about official languages, or we are not talking about the 22 languages enshrined or envisaged in the 8th schedule. So we are talking about a different, unique, which you might have not heard category, the classical language category. Fine. So what is actually a classical language? So any language with rich literary heritage, extensive inscriptions, followed by multiple generations, and which have a profound influence on our Indian culture or society. Now, obviously, this is just an overall definition. So, if we have to define the criteria on the basis, there is specific criteria which was recently updated or modified by a linguistic experts committee. So, we have various criteria on basis of which a particular language is given the classical language status. Okay. So, first of all is antiquity. That is the language in which is to be given the classical language status. It should be old. That is spanning over its development period should span two at least 1500 to 2000 years and beyond. Okay. Then literary heritage. This includes the texts followed, which are being followed by multiple generations. Then epigraphic evidence. Okay. This is extensive proof of inscriptions and epigraphy. Inscription, some definitions, although it is not possible to. So, inscription is any writing carved in metal or stone. Then we also have a word known as edict. So, you might have heard of Ashokan edict or Ashokan pillars, which have. So, how are edicts different from inscription? Is that edict is a form of inscription which contains sermons, which contain or envisage a command of authority. For example, Ashokan pillars or edicts, they were messages. They were a type of proclamation or spread of the message of Buddhist Dhamma and messages to convey about the various aspects of that empire, the Ashokan empire. And epigraphy is the study of inscriptions. Fine. Then inscription is there. Then there is distinctiveness. That is, it should be different from other languages in terms of heritage culture. It should not have borrowed from modern languages. Fine. Then we have final knowledge texts, which includes extensive proof or availability of knowledge through inscriptions. Okay. So this is how a classical language has been defined. So till now, six classical languages had been described or envisaged as the given the classical language status by the government. So first of all, there was Tamil, which was given this status in 2004. Then it was Sanskrit in 2005. Then it was Telugu In 2008, then it was Kannad, also in 2008. Then we had Malayalam in 2013, and finally Odia in 2014. So total now 6 plus 5 we have 11. Now before starting directly, because this might seem as a complicated topic, but I will try my best so that each and every one of you, even a layman, can understand. So basically, if we talk about the Indian languages, they can be categorized into various sections. First is various groups: Indo-Aryan languages. Second is Dravidian group of languages. Third is Sino Tibetan group of languages. Fine. Then fourth is Austric group of languages. Then Negroid group of languages and other languages. So today in this discussion, we are primarily going to focus on these two groups, which are the two major groups. Indo-Aryan languages, they have had their origin in the from the advent of the Europeans, advent of the Aryans. So they have, if I discuss this in some detail, to give a brief overview. So Indo-Aryan or Indo-European languages, some characteristics. So 74% of the Indian population speaks this languages, which is prominent in the northern, western, and eastern part of India. Now, this can be divided into three groups: the early Indo-European group. So, this involves Sanskrit. This involves languages, example is Sanskrit. Second point, these languages started developing from 1500 BC onwards. Fine. It was prominent during the empires such as the Gupta period. Okay. Then we can conclude that grammar, some additional facts I'm giving. Sanskrit grammar developed around, so it was developed by Panini in his book Ashtadhyayi. Fine. Then majority, almost all Vedas, it is a language of the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Purans, the Dharma Sutras. Okay, this is a brief overview. So this language is important. Okay, so this is the early Indo-European group. Then we come to another part of the Indo-Aryan group, that is the middle group, Indo-European group. Okay, so this primarily involved development of Prakrit. So this language is important because we are talking about the inclusion of Prakrit, Pali, Assamese, Marathi, and Bengali. So here the Prakrit language started developing, and The special thing about Prakrit was it was the language or voice of the masses or the common people. Like what the main problem with Sanskrit, why the development of Prakrit, this language group started developing from 600 BC onwards to 1000 AD. So what happened with Sanskrit was whatever theaters were conducted in Sanskrit, they were the prerogative or primary concern of the upper elite class, like Brahmins. So the Shudras, not only the grammar, Sanskrit language and grammar were difficult to speak or understand, the lower groups, such as Shudras and the women, they were refrained, they were prohibited from use of this language. So this is why the Prakrit language started growing in the first place. So they provide accessibility and freedom from all the prohibitive rituals that were established by the Sanskrit language. Okay, then one important fact we can include here, Prakrit is derived from the word Prakriti, which further connotes source or origin. So Prakrit is not a language, a proper language in itself. It is an umbrella term. So Prakrit has been associated with multiple languages, like, for example, Magadhi, Ardha Magadhi, Shauri Sena, even Pali, the language which was spoken during the time of Gautam Buddha. So Pali is also considered by scholars as a type of Sanskritized Magadhi Prakrit. Okay, so this Prakrit is an umbrella term. We'll get to it when we discuss the five important languages. And finally, we have the modern group. Don't worry, I'll summarize this for you. The modern group, they are the languages which have been developing since 1000 AD, and these languages involve all the recent languages like Hindi, Punjabi, Sindhi, Assamese, okay, Bengali, Marathi. So you can see we have finally included all the recently inclusive which have been included in the. So we have covered Prakrit we have covered, then Assamese, Bengali, Marathi. So the relation and Pali, which developed the Sanskritized version of. So during the Buddha period, it basically developed. Okay, so now if we focus on the individual languages, first I will just mention the connection between all the languages. So first Sanskrit came, the oldest language. Then from that, Prakrit came, the common masses, which established or enabled their flow of communication and their inclusion. Then the Prakrit had various forms such as Magadhi, Ardha Magadhi, even Pali, Upper Brahmasha. And finally, these languages evolved to form the modern Indo-European group of languages such as Hindi, Punjabi, Sindhi, Rajasthani, Gujarati, Marathi, Assamese, and Bengali. So I think the road is clear. So first of all, we'll discuss the different languages, the the five different languages we have come into existence. So first is the Marathi, which has been included in the find some facts. So Marathi, its origin and significance, I'm going to discuss in short. So, so it has been Marathi is derived from the Maharashtra, Maharashtra form of Prakriti. Fine. Then it finds its significance and relations in the works of Jnaneshwari and the famous Saint Tukaram. Fine. Then it started developing during the period of Satvahana dynasty. So, multiple. So, I have also provided a map here. If I'll just enlarge it. So, here you can see the Magadha dynasty, and here you can see the Satvana empire, which also corresponds to a extended version of Maharashtra, today's present day Maharashtra. Okay. Then some more information, important information. Then the earliest form of evidence is found in the inscriptions in Pune. Then the inscriptions on copper coins have been found. This is sorry in Satara in Maharashtra, and the copper coin inscriptions have been found in Pune, dating back to 739 AD. So this is basically Marathi. Some significance. So it has philosophical and cultural significance. That is why it has been included in the recently concluded version of classical languages. So this is an example of Saint Tukaram. Then we come to Bengali. So Bengali is derived from Magadhi Prakriti. Magad Prakriti. Fine. Or Magadhi Prakrit, we can say. Okay. Then it boasts of literary figures like Rabindranath Tagore and Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. Fine. And it started developing during the 6th to 12th century AD. Fine. And then, so this is also derived from, like I showed you in the this form. So this Magad, because here we have Magad is more or less Magad used to expand. It was an expansive dynasty which occupied several places, but primarily it is known as the region around Bihar. And to the east side of it, we have the Assamese, the Assam. Fine. So this is an example. This is an image of Sankradeva, not Shankaracharya. So this Assamese So it has been derived from the, again, from the Magadhi Prakrit. Okay, so just remember Prakrit belonged to the Middle Indo-European group of languages. So Sankradeva was an important figure of this. So it is very important from the point of view of philosophy and cultural significance of the regions of East, that is primarily Assam. Fine. Then we come to Prakrit. We have already discussed some details of it previously, but it was basically spoken during the religion when the Jainism was flourishing in India, and basically it is the language of the literature agamas. Okay, then Prakrit we have already discussed. It took various forms. So one was Magadhi, which later evolved into various languages like Assamese, Bengali, Magadhi, the part of Bihar. Then, and also it includes this. These are the classic important languages, and other Bihari languages also developed from it, like Bhojpuri, then Mathili. Okay, then we have the Ardh Magadhi, which means half Magad, which was used as the language of the Jain Agamas. And finally, another important form of Prakrit is the Shauri Sena. This Shauri Sena is important because it prospered into some of the modern Indo-European form of languages such as Hindustani, Punjabi, other languages of the Hindi group. Okay. So are you seeing the connection? So first of all, the oldest, earliest Indo-European, the Indo-European, if I revise, 74% of Indian population speaks. So initially, during the earliest, Sanskrit was the language. Then Sanskrit evolved, or Sanskrit became the inspiration behind the development of common languages like Prakrit and Pali. Then these Prakrit, it formed. This was during the second period, the Middle European period, and the Modern European period. The Prakrit evolved into various modern languages like Assamese, Bengali, Marathi, Hindi, Sindhi, Punjabi, Urdu. Okay, so this is the basic structure. And we know that one of the criteria of defining a classical language was the presence of extensive inscriptions. So this Ashokan edict or inscriptions are very important evidences and sources of knowledge of how the various commands of authority, the Buddhist Dhamma. Fine. And Buddhism, we have discussed Pali was the primary language, which is extensively studied because Gautam Buddha was an um highly influential figure. So it has been extensively studied. Now, Pali, some important facts. It is, we have already said that it is, the scholars consider it as a Sanskritized version of Magadhi, Prakrit. Fine. Then some important, you might have heard of the threefold basket of disciplines known as the Tripitaka. Fine. Which were doctrines of the Theravada doctrines, followed by the Hinayana sect of Buddhism. So, at the later period of the growth and spread of Buddhism, it was divided into two sects, basically Mahayana and Hinayana, where Hinayana was distinguished by where it concentrated on the salvation, importance of salvation of individuals, and the types important types of the Theravada doctrine, the Tripitakas. So we have Vinay Pitaka, which includes the rules and disciplines to be followed in the monastery. Then we have Sutta Pitaka, which includes the various sermons or commands given by Buddha. Then we have Abhidhamma Pitaka, which includes the philosophical teachings or treatise of Buddha. Fine. So we have included all the recently. So just to summarize, so basically we have been discussing the inclusion. Dravidian languages, we have already discussed. The Dravidian languages, they include Tamil, Telugu, the southern languages in layman terms, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam. So in Dravidian group, it is spoken by around 25% of the Indian population. This was 74%. So Tamil, out of all the Dravidian languages, it is considered to be oldest and purest. This Malayalam is the youngest. And out of all the Dravidian languages, Telugu has the largest number of speakers. So, in summary, other languages which have been recently included: Assamese, Bengali, Marathi, Pali, and Prakrit, they have been derived or they are included in one or the other form of the Indo-Aryan or Indo-European languages. So now I hope you can establish the connection. So I'll just first we discussed the definition, then we discussed about the various criteria, then we discussed about the previously existing classical languages. There were 6, now total of 11. Then we discussed, this is important, this is not given in the news, but This is how it becomes easy to understand the various languages. So we then middle group, this Prakrit. Sanskrit was for the earlier group from developed started developing 1500 BC. This middle group Prakrit. So this Prakrit evolved into different types of Magadhi and Ardha Magadhi and various. It became the source or inspiration behind the development of the modern Indo-European languages such as Assamese, Bengali, Marathi. Okay. And then we had the modern group developing from 1000 AD onwards. Then we discussed the five languages, in particular Marathi during the Satavahana period. Then there's an image of Tukaram, Saint Tukaram, Bengali, then Assamese, then Prakrit. We had discussed various varieties of Prakrit like the Magadhi Prakrit, Ardha Magadhi, Pali is a form of Sanskritized Prakrit. Then Shauri Sena. So these evolved, for example, the Magadhi. They became evolved towards the Assamese and Bengali and Bihari languages like Bhojpuri, Maithili. Then Shauri Sena, they developed into Hindustani Punjabi. Ardh Magadhi, it was the source of texts of the Jain Agamas. Then Ashokan inscriptions we had discussed. Then Pali, so also used during the Ashokan. This was used another point during the Mauryan Empire. The Mauryan and the pre-Gupta Empire, the Magad Empire, they used primarily the Pali language, and previous to that, okay, the after that, the Gupta period, it used the Sanskrit language. Now we have also discussed the reasons for the study or the development of Pali and Prakrit, which are considered as the language of the masses. Fine, Theravada Tripitakas, some additional information. Now, finally, the importance of, we'll quickly conclude by discussing the importance of inclusion of these languages in the classical category. So, first is obviously the cultural significance. Okay, so culture not only promotes and preserves the cultures in our nation, so indigenous development, preservation, and promotion of culture. Okay, then educational purposes, various educational institutes like the institutes for the promulgation or propagation of Tamil is there. Then research purposes. Now, with the advent of modern technology, we have started digitizing, not just promoting, but also digitizing the various languages and preparing archives for study by the future generations. Okay, so these are the importance, and in order to conclude, we can say that the government has taken a noble and a progressive step in order to include more languages. Although there are plenty of more languages in our nation which are spoken, and every language is important. So, but including all those and fulfilling all that criteria is not feasible. So this, in order to promote, not only promote, but also preserve and advance the literature, to advance the studies in the literature, the study of the classical languages is very important. So I hope you got a fair bit of idea of how the languages work in our country. So till we meet next time, Jai Hind.